is it inevitable that you will have to sit down, your man, the president, and Speaker Boehner, and just thrash out a deal?
Well, Piers, what is inevitable is that Congress has the responsibility to fund the government, to pass bills that keep the government open. And Congress has the responsibility to pass a bill to raise the debt ceiling so that the United States does not, for the first time in its history, default on its obligations. The president's position is clear. He has been all year and continues to be eager and willing to sit down with lawmakers of both parties to work out a longer, broader budget compromise that funds our priorities, invests in our future, and reduces our deficit, continuing the work that he's done since he took office in reducing the deficit by more than half. But what he won't do is negotiate under threat of shutdown or threat of default. The Republicans are engaging in a practice here that's bad for the economy, bad for the middle class, and they're doing it all because they want to, get this political victory of undermining or defunding or dismantling Obamacare, something they have failed to do legislatively, they failed to do through the Supreme Court, they failed to do when we had a national election last November. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is the law. It's providing benefits to millions of Americans. It's providing benefits to millions of Americans. And as you know, today, a new phase opened where millions more Americans will get those benefits.
But see, I'm not really disputing anything you've just said, so I'm kind of on your side on this. But, and it's a big but, the government is shut down. So at some point, there has to be a form of negotiation, whatever form that takes. And when I spoke to President Bill Clinton last week and former Speaker, obviously, Newt Gingrich, they both said that when they went through the last shutdown, they talked every single day, wrestling with all the complexities of this kind of situation to try and get to a point of agreement. Why is that not happening between the president and John Boehner?
Well, first of all, as the president said he would, he spoke with the Speaker of the House and said he would continue to have conversations with leaders in Congress in the days ahead. What is fundamentally different about 1995 and 2013, and I remember because I was in this room covering it as a reporter, is that the Republicans then, whether you agreed with or didn't agree with their strategy, and whether or not it ended up hurting them politically, had a coherence to what they were arguing. They wanted to force the president, then Bill Clinton, to reduce spending more. And so what they were arguing about went to the heart of what funding the government is about, budget priorities. What we see now is Republicans, they've abandoned their insistence that we deal with our budget issues. When the president put on the table a budget that reduces the deficit and even addresses entitlement reforms as they demanded, they ignored that. Now they're making this about, getting a political scalp, which is somehow, defunding or dismantling or disrupting the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. The president won't do that.
If Speaker Boehner, though, if he can't get any kind of concession on the defunding of any part of Obamacare or any change at all to appease the Tea Party renegades who are driving all this, his position becomes untenable. Does that suit the White House, that Speaker Boehner's position reaches that place?
It is, we are agnostic when it comes to how Republicans pick their leaders in Congress. And the president actually has a good relationship with and likes and enjoys John Boehner's company. But the fact is, this can't be about his job security. I mean, is that what the message is to the American people? Sorry, the government's shut down. Sorry, we may default because of internal politics and the future of the speaker. That can't be what it's about. And honestly, as the president said the other day in an interview, that he believes that if the Speaker of the House did the right thing and put a clean bill on the floor that had already passed the Senate and did it on the House, it would get a majority of members of the House of Representatives, including Republicans who day by day are now saying this is what they want, and John Boehner would be strengthened by it.